Welcome back. Today is the second guide tutorial for onlinescrums.com. Today we're going to look at sprint management. So after logging in, we can, as the owner of a team, come to our management or manager component. In this component, we can see the list of sprints in the system, and we can see their associated tasks and milestones. As a new team, we automatically create for you a sprint. And this is really to give you an idea of what's involved in setting up your sprint, but also if you don't want to go through the process of setting up a sprint, you just want you and your team to have a look and play, you can do so within the context of this sprint. So we have some tasks that we've created on your behalf, like exploring the various components, inviting your team members, and choosing a subscription type, hopefully. So that's what we set up for you automatically. At this point, you can either just start using the system, or you can step through and actually learn how to manage and create your sprints. So a sprint consists of a couple of things. So we have the actual sprint record itself. So in this case, we have our sprint title, let's say your second sprint. We automatically calculate the start and end dates for your sprints based on your team defaults and the last sprint that you ran. So in this case, the first sprint ran until the 8th of December. So this one then picks up to the start should be the 9th, and the end should therefore be the 22nd, based on a 2-week sprint period. In my team defaults, while I was not recording, I actually changed my working days to include Saturday, largely because I'm currently recording this on a Saturday, and I wanted to make sure that this was a real sprint day for future videos. So we can come in and customize this at a sprint level. And let's say that we know that Monday is actually a public holiday. We can change that in the system. So that will mean that your team members are not required to submit a sprint report, or a daily report on that day, because we know they won't be there. So this makes it really easy to manage your daily reports and your subsequent reporting, because it will treat that as a non-work day. Cutoff is as normal. There's also 2 options here to import task JSON and milestones JSON. So if I click on the help icon here, what we allow you to do is to import into the system the attributes associated with tasks and milestones in JSON format. So there's a nice little guide in our help center that will take you through the information that you need to provide and the format that we're expecting. There's also a nice little tool that we've used in the past as well for importing the CSV, and that's linked. There's also an item around that as well. So if I click on this, we have csvjson.com, which allows you to take a CSV file and convert it to JSON. So you can use those tools and that guide as a way of building these out. So particularly if you're using a third-party tool such as Atlassian or Microsoft Visual Studio Online or Visual Studio Team Services, as it's now known, you can export that as CSV data and import it straight into your online Scrums, so you're not having to rekey anything. It's worth noting we're currently working on Atlassian integration, so you'll be able to, rather than create a sprint, you'll select a sprint from Atlassian and we'll pull in all the data that we need for that sprint. So in this case, I've got a JSON structure on my clipboard that I've created, and this has just some generic tasks in here for us to use. I'm not going to do the milestone JSON because I want to show you that creation process. So I click create now, And what's happened now is we've created our sprint record, we've created all of our tasks and their relevant details, but no milestones as we would expect. So one of the key aspects of online scrums and one of the key drivers for us building this solution was we felt that quite often there is a disconnect between the business and key project milestones, billable milestones, those business level information and data that is not always as upfront and obvious in a development environment, and your technical team. So what Milestones allows you to do is to set up a number of different milestones based on what's coming up in the system. We've broken them down into 4 very easy types. A key milestone, that's going to be things like your show and tell session. So let's say show and tell for Bob, and that will be an end result of your sprint, for example. Or it could be partway through. So depending on how you run your team, you may have multiple deliverables throughout the sprint for different customers. Particularly in a commercial environment, that's a lot more likely than dealing in a single product type environment where you're delivering to a release or a roadmap only. You can provide a quote in here as well. So this might be something like, it's always great to show the customer how we're doing. And we can nominate our date. So in this case, I'm going to say that this is going to sit at the end of the sprint, but let's say it's Thursday, and let's create that. We can also do things like birthdays, obviously. Makes sense that when you're working in a team, it's always good to understand when people have significant events. And a birthday, I know it's only a small thing, but it's nice if it's your birthday to have your team come in and acknowledge that and say happy birthday, or even do something nice for them. Take someone out for a coffee, those types of things. So birthday allows you to have that information. It's just a nice little milestone in the system for you to be able to manage. Leave serves 2 purposes. One is, we're a firm believer within our business that taking time to back away from work and to have some time to yourself and your family is critical to not only your mental health, but to the business and their overall health as an organization. So we use this as a way of highlighting when people are on leave, and in some ways that's going to encourage others to think about when they will take their leave. The other side of this is obviously resource planning. There's no point in expecting a particular resource to be involved in tasks if they're just not going to be there for that period. So it serves 2 purposes. In terms of the operations within online scrums, it's really there to help plan your work and understand where you might have risks. The other area is payments, and a payment milestone in a commercial environment is likely to be in various stages of a project. So you may have a project methodology that suggests that payments happen at initiation, UAT, and go live. So we can set these up in the system, and so you're very aware of your work and how it relates to the fundamental financing aspect of your business, because no matter how much we want to avoid it, an invoice and payment is critical to the business and to individual people within the business. If we don't get paid, nobody gets paid. So these milestones, it's all about presenting information to key resources within your business so that they're aware of them and they can plan accordingly. They can do one task over another task because they know there's a payment milestone dependent on it. Okay, so this is just some very easy visibility type stuff that's going to allow you to improve the performance of your business and hopefully not miss those milestones, or to make sure that you're highlighting and congratulating people on a job well done, or saying happy birthday to somebody. So they're the associations of tasks and milestones in relation to a sprint. Now, I want to take you through the creation of a task as well, because you may do this manually. There may be tasks that are sitting in your day-to-day operations that don't sit in your development environment. And you as a team may decide that you want to have visibility of that. So we can create some tasks in here. And I want to particularly talk about routine tasks, because this is a great way to manage tasks that are routine specific. So let's create a new task, and let's call it RT001, routine task 001. I'm not calling it that for any reason. It's just the way that I like to do it. Your title is obviously something that has to be meaningful. Now, for me, the most meaningful and significant thing is time with my team. So I'm going to say coffee with Chris as a routine task. Now I can do this as a single task, and that will just sit in the backlog. People will be able to select it and put it into their sprint, into their planning, not their sprint. Or we can do what's called a routine task. Again, there's a nice guide sitting in the help center that takes you through these processes, but I'm going to just select. So the great thing about routine tasks is it can be specific to a user, or it can be specific to everybody. So I'm going to say that, let's go into treat Chris a coffee. Let's have the description as treat Chris a coffee because he's great. A little self-praise goes a long way. So we have here our users. Now, I haven't set up user profiles in here, user images, but you can upload images for each user, or they can upload their own image, I should say. So we can come in here and we can select one or more user, and we can also define a routine type. Daily sounds great for me, but probably a little bit of overkill. Having 2 people buy me a coffee every day is great for me, but probably not so great for them. So I'm going to say instead, I'm going to nominate selected days. And by default, everything's picked. But if I say none, and then let's say I like a great Friday afternoon coffee. I think it's a great way to finish the week, a great way to sit and reflect and discuss and talk about things that could be done better. I do that regularly with my team, and I can create that. So what's going to happen now is every time a team member goes into their report, their daily report, through the My Day screen up here, the system's going to check if they have any routine tasks due that day. If they do, it will automatically create it for them, and they will then have to choose or update the status to say whether it was completed, blocked. It might be blocked because I was away that day, or whether, basically treat it like any other task. The beauty of doing this is that it's not going to appear until the report is due. So they're not going to have this big list of tasks due 2 weeks from now. It's all going to be based on as they go into the system and start to add their information to the system. So that's your sprint setup. There's not a lot to it. It's going to get better as we integrate more with external parties, but for now, explore this JSON and have your task output from your systems and import it straight into the system. I hope you've enjoyed today's session. Tomorrow we're going to start talking about My Day and Scrum and how those things relate to each other. Thank you very much.